Welcome back. The story of BHI Trust, one of South Africa's biggest Ponzi schemes, continues to unravel. This elaborate scheme run by Craig Warriner, a St Stithians College old boy who worked his former school network, is accused of defrauding hundreds of investors of over R1 billion. The 60-year-old handed himself over to police, and his second bail hearing, initially set down for the 20th of March, is taking place today. Now, Lyse Comins is a senior journalist with the Mail and Guardian, and she's been tracking this story for more on this discussion. Lyse, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for coming on. And as is always the case, right, there are many, many victims who have invested, in this case, many millions of rand, often their pensions and their life savings.
That's right, Michelle. 220 victims that have been cited in court papers so far, but it's understood that there are many more who are not coming forward for various reasons.
How did this happen, Lyse? How, because when we talk about Ponzi schemes, I think the average person would probably run a mile. And the only way that one can think this happens is because, obviously, when I'm selling it to you, I'm not selling it to you as a Ponzi scheme.
Yes, you see, the problem is that I have a document that goes back to 2008, where some of the returns promised were between 15 and 35% on these investments. And what happens is someone invests in the scheme and they make a great return initially. So then they become a mouthpiece for the scheme and encourage their family members and their friends to sign up. So it becomes a very sad situation where entire families end up investing in these kinds of schemes. And, of course, it all crumbles because they are taking money from the early investors, the later investors, to pay out the earlier investors their interest, and eventually it all crumbles.
Yeah. You've been speaking to some of the victims. What are some of those kinds of stories that you are hearing about how people got involved? I imagine many, many relationships breaking down as a result of, my advice to you to invest in something that has led to me losing my life savings.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who are embarrassed to be named in stories, but a lot of them are pensioners. Some of them have invested it might not sound like a lot of money to the average listener, like R1 million, but that's their sole pension. And they've put it into the fund and lost everything. And they realize there's no hope of getting much back. The one particular lady I spoke to, her husband had invested, and then she went and invested. And initially there were payouts, but eventually it stopped, So, yeah.
What do you make of the fact that, I'm just reading some of your reportage around the story, but there were financial advisors who were giving this kind of advice to invest in BHI?
Yes, and there was a particular person whose name came up repeatedly with the investors that I interviewed. And his name appears on documents as well, and that was Michael Haldane from Global and Local, who we've widely cited in our stories. He was one of the advisors that was signing people up, and he's apparently a very charismatic, friendly person. So people found him personable and trusted him and sunk their money into the scheme. Yeah.
I understand that more financial advisors, aside from this person from Global and Local, will be subpoenaed to give evidence.
Well, we have said in our previous articles that there are further two criminal cases that have been opened. The Hawks have been very playing their cards close to the chest. They have confirmed the cases, but they won't come out and say exactly who these people are. But that's all I can say for now. We have been also taken to court over this matter for showing some international links to various companies, not that they were necessarily at all involved in the scheme, but just to show that the associations possibly are not just in South Africa.
I actually just had a conversation with the FSCA on the issue of another sort of troubling story for some people, at least, the issue of cryptocurrency. But my point is that the FSCA is compiling a list of financial advisors, right, who may have assisted their clients to invest in BHI products. What would be the aim of that, of compiling this list, do you think?
I think the aim of that would clearly be to investigate these individuals further and to issue some kind of penalty, whether it be a fine or a temporary suspension from their registration with the authority.
Yeah. I mean, the point of stories like this, Lyse, is that if it sounds too good to be true, it in most cases probably is. But of course, the flip side of that is that everyone is trying to make the most out of their money, you know, especially when it comes to retirement. A lot of people don't have enough money for retirement. And so if they see something that might just be successful, might give them that extra bit of cash during their retirement, they're probably going to take it. And it's the exact issue that makes them the most vulnerable.
That's exactly it. You know, it's the two things. It's desperation and greed that causes people to fall for these scams. And very sadly, yes, it's the desperates who haven't saved enough, not through necessarily any fault of their own, and they look at the returns and they think, great. But there were red flags in the documents that they signed. You know, that there were certain terms and conditions in the documents that they signed when they invested in the trust, which basically waived so many, you know, rights that a wily investor would have looked at that and gone, no, I can't accept that I could lose all my money, you know. Yeah. Yeah. That there are no guarantees is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any chance, do you think, and certainly from your report, it doesn't look like there is, of people getting their money back? I mean, I said hundreds of investors were defrauded by over R1 billion, but it's much, much more than that, right? It's 1.6 billion rand.
Yes, the liquidators are saying 1.6. It could possibly even be more. I mean, remember, this scheme was running for more than 10 years. And there are people among those claimants who have been paid out. I've spoken to some of them, and in the early days, they were making money. So those people are not likely to put their hat in the ring and file complaints and try and get money back, because they might find that, you know, they actually are in the red to the funders, the other people who have claims. But in terms of liquidation, I mean, who are winners when any company is liquidated? Certainly not the creditors or the investors. Personally, I don't hold much hope of people getting much back. I mean, only 4 million rand has been found in a Nedbank account. So, you know, it's not looking good. And a lot of the investors have actually accepted the reality that getting the money back might not be what actually happens in the end, you know. Certainly not the full amount.
Yeah. And Lyse, just give us a reminder of what's the estimate about how many investors were duped?
Well, according to court papers, 220, but sources close to the investigation say there are many more. I can't put a number to that, but some of them are filing cases with the Financial Advisory and Intermediary Services Ombudsman. Others are not coming forward, as I said, because they're worried because they got paid out in the early days. And then there are others who just don't have any hope that the process is going to do them any good, so they're just not bothering to get involved.
Sure. Heartbreaking story, especially for this segment of society, but really for anyone to lose your hard-earned money, it's not easy. Lyse Comins, let me thank you for your time. She's a senior journalist at the Mail and Guardian, tracking the story. Set to go down in history as one of South Africa's biggest Ponzi schemes. As we said, losses running into the billions, well, 1.6 billion rand, an incredible amount of money.